Well, welcome to our Module 2 level session. It is 6:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I realize that people might still be coming in, but I do want to make sure to respect everyone's time. As we get started, first of all, if you guys hear me, can you unmute your mic? Can you mute your microphone? I hear a lot of background noise.
How many times did she ask you to stop?
I can't. I don't feel like I'm talking over the background noise.
With my foot, I was
Thank you. All right. As I get started, I just want to do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me okay? I would assume everybody could hear me just because you guys heard me say mute your microphones. Just one person, can you guys hear me? And can you guys see the PowerPoint okay?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So we have a lot to cover tonight for tonight's agenda. We'll have welcome and introductions. We will have time to check in. I will give a little bit of overview of the live classroom expectations, scoring rubrics, review of APA guide, the planning cycle for Module 1 review. You'll have the planning cycle. I think there's a discussion about that too this week. And then your Module 2 assignments, you have quite a bit this week, and I just wanted to take a minute to go over that. And then you'll have question and answer time. So I just wanted to share a little bit about myself and then hear a little bit about each of you that are online. As most of you guys know, my name is Mike Hager. I am from a small farm town in northeastern North Dakota. I am a graduate from the University of North Dakota. I majored in history, and then later I decided that I had a passion for early childhood education. After graduation, I moved from Grand Rapids, North Dakota, where I was living, and then I moved to Denver to pursue a career in early childhood education. I worked for the public and private sectors as a teacher and a director for the last 12 years and have worked in the public schools as a special needs paraeducator. Later, I received a master's degree in early childhood education in an online classroom similar to this one. Right now, I'm currently an education supervisor for a Head Start program in Denver Metro. One of my biggest passions is to working with children and families who are privileged, and that's the reason why I am at Head Start. One day I hope to go back to school to pursue a doctoral degree in early childhood education. And as far as my favorite toy as a child growing up, it's a little silly. It was a My Buddy doll because I wanted blonde hair as a child. It was kind of a silly reason, but most of the kids where I grew up in northeastern North Dakota had blonde hair and blue eyes, and I wanted to fit in like them. So yeah, and I have dark hair and dark skin and brown eyes, so I kind of stood out like a sore thumb to a lot of them, but I always wanted to be like them. But so yeah, I just would like you guys, if you're online, share who you are, where you live, and the type of degree you're pursuing, and a favorite toy as a child and why. And if you are viewing this online on the recording, please answer these questions as well in paragraph format. Don't be shy to unmute your microphone now and talk.
Okay, I just have a question. My name is Amber Evans, and I am from New York City. I live in the Bronx. I am pursuing early childhood special education. And my favorite toy as a child was my doll babies because ended up pursuing cosmetology actually first before I came into the field of early childhood education because my mom, my cousin, my aunt, my whole family was surrounded by beauty and hair and makeup in the industry. And I just dove into it head first because I've seen it growing up. That's all I've seen. And I wanted to pursue that first. So I went from hair to actually flight attending and now into early childhood special ed.
Well, thanks for sharing, Amber. And Amber, how is I can't about imagine how it is in North or in New York right now. I heard here it's with the COVID 19, the virus there is really
Yeah,
it's a real struggle there.
it's very difficult. We're all at home. Actually, my job, which I work as an early childhood educator, we're not closed. We're actually open for essential workers for their children to come and them to have actual daycare access. So it's really difficult. Everyone is in an uproar. They're very nervous and scared, but we're making it. Hopefully, it'll be all over soon.
Yeah, I would hope that I would assume that the peak there would be right now or pretty much coming down.
Yeah, it is. It's nerve wracking. My partner's a nurse, so head first and always at work and actually just got cleared from COVID. My partner had COVID and doing much better, but it's scary.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to you. Stay safe and healthy. Thanks for sharing, Amber.
Thank you.
Hi, it's just Evan, and I live in Athens, Georgia, where I was born and raised. I'm married with two beautiful girls, and the type of degree I am pursuing is my early childhood education degree, associate's degree. Um, and my favorite toy as a child, I really didn't have one. I mean, I always played with baby dolls, but I would always line them up and read them books. And that's how when I was younger, I just knew that I wanted to be a teacher because of the impact that my teachers had on me. And so I would just line all my babies up on my bed and just read to them.
Nice. Well, thanks, Jessica. It seems like you were definitely going to be a teacher from the get go.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Fortune. Oh, somebody going?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Fortune. I live in the state of Boston, Massachusetts. The degree that I'm pursuing right now is early education. Um, as I was younger, I never really had a favorite toy, but we usually used to like play outside with the rocks, the mud, basically all nature stuff. But one thing that I used to love is I used to carry around is like the baby dolls. So I could say that's my favorite toy. Other than that, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Fortune.
Thank you.
And I think that might have been everybody who shared. Well, welcome, guys. I think that was everybody. Or did I miss somebody? Possibly I could miss somebody because I'm sometimes I'm a little slow. Um, looking at the chat box and then looking back of who who uh who went. Keela, Keela, did I don't know if you shared anything. Like you're online. Hi, Keela. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. If I'm mispronouncing anybody's name, please correct me. All right. Looks like Keela is online. Um, so I'm gonna try to go a little quickly with this, guys. Because there's a lot of information, and I want to get through it. Because you guys have a lot of stuff to do, and you guys have posts to do tonight too that are that are due. So thank you and welcome everybody. I just wanted to check in so far. How are you guys doing? Are you guys able to navigate the course in the modules, weekly announcements, syllabus, resource tab? I'll go over the resource tab a little bit, or APA format a little bit later. My biggest thing is just to practice and play around with Blackboard if you're not familiar with it. I'm not sure how many of you guys have taken a class from Rasmussen, but I think a lot of you might have already. And if you have taken, especially the Blackboard version of it, it's very similar. Teachers and instructors have different expectations, but it's the same thing as far as discussions and pretty much the work content. And from the chat box, it seems like everybody is able to navigate, which is great. So if you guys are having trouble, like I said, the best is just best to practice and play around. Like I said, sometimes our best teacher is ourselves, and just explore around. If you do have any like pressing questions, feel free to reach out to me. I work remotely at home. Our Head Start Center is shut down for the year, but we do remote learning through Chromebooks. So I'm usually always on my computer. I always have some sort of technology. So if you ever need anything, feel free to reach via email, via text. Calling might be a little bit difficult just because I'm usually on a conference call, but I could usually multitask if I am on a conference call. If you guys have any questions or issues that you're having. Live classroom expectations. So just wanted to go over this real quick. This course will have 3 live classroom sessions that I will lead to expand on the current module for topics. These sessions are offered in Module 2, Module 4, and Module 5. The next live session will be Tuesday, April 28th at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Basically, especially if you've done these online classes before, the purpose of the live session is to engage with myself and your peers just in conversation about the course concepts to further your learning and ask questions. Interactive sessions encourage open dialogue. And for some reason, if you guys cannot attend the live session, because I know some people are busy, that's okay. The video will be posted the next day in course announcements. This may take a few days to post as WebEx sometimes is having trouble and is running behind on making recordings available due to increased usage during the COVID outbreak. If you do watch this recording, you will need to complete the live session quiz to answer the questions that I asked the class during the presentation in order to receive all the participation credit. And if you actively participate in this session and you're online, like most of you have, and you continue to participate, you don't have to do anything. There won't be any like password or anything. I know some teachers use passphrase or like a code or something. I usually know who you are. I can see who participates, and I will manually put in your points, full points for participation. Pretty straightforward, I think. Does anyone have any questions? right, hearing and seeing that there's no questions, I'm going to continue on. Scoring rubric. So all assignments are graded based on a rubric. I wanted to make sure you all know how to access the rubric so you can make sure to meet all the criteria before submitting an assignment. To view the rubric for each assignment, click on the assignment title under the assignment tab in each module. Towards the upper left side, you will see a box with the total points possible listed. In that box under the total points, there will be a button that says View Rubric. By clicking on that button, a new window will open up with a scoring rubric. And then please use the rubrics to your advantage to ensure that you receive the most points possible for an assignment. I'll let you in on a little secret. If you guys decide to submit an assignment early, before Sunday, before the due date, and if I grade it for some reason, if you don't like your grade, you guys have the opportunity to submit it again to improve your grade. I don't do that often, but I do feel like that in order to actually truly understand something, you know, you should have that option to master that, to master which you need to master for these assignments. But if you don't care about your grade and you're done, you're fine with it, that's fine with me too. For me, it's less work, which is great because, you know, grading a bunch of assignments does take a lot of time. But if you do submit it early, I will try to grade it within a 24 to 48 hour period and get it back to you. And if you have any, and if you want to attempt it again, you can. If you don't like it, you're great. So just to let you know, a little insight on that. So APA guide, want to take a moment just to tell you a little bit about this. To ensure consistency and precision for students and instructors, Rasmussen has chosen APA, especially if you guys have taken classes before, you would know this. Style for standard documentation and citation style to be used in all courses. Basically, by using the APA as a common style in our classes and assignments, Rasmussen seeks to streamline the documentation component of the information. If you are unfamiliar with APA guidelines, you can check out the Rasmussen APA guide in Blackboard. So basically, from the home page, if you take a look, you can go to, I don't know if you can see this very good, up on the top right in the center column. Let's see. If you check up on the Rasmussen APA guideline in Blackboard from the home page, click on the far right tab on top of your screen that says resources. It's pretty dark, but it's right over here. In the center of the column, you'll see library sources. Sorry, this does not look, I did not cut and paste this very well, but it brings you up to a page that looks like this, and then right over here with APA guide, you could find your, it gives you the resources that you need in order to cite anything for any of the papers that you have. Sorry, I thought I had this in a better example, but it seems like it blew up way too big. But yeah, so resources, go to your tab on the top right from your home page, and then it'll bring you up to this, and then you scroll down to the APA guide. I'm so sorry, guys. That was not a very good picture of it, but hopefully you guys understand where to find it. You guys have questions? Oh, good. So that wasn't too confusing, hopefully. All right, so moving on. The planning cycle, yay, we could get into some content. Um, so I do want to dig into the planning cycle a little bit. So the first step of a planning cycle, I know you guys we talked a little bit about it, I think last week, and then this week you have something. I think the discussion revolves around it. And then whenever you do your lessons and stuff, you will be using kind of this format. So I just wanted to take a moment to go over this real quick. So the first step, whenever you're doing the planning cycle, is to identify your subject. Before planning any kind of curriculum, it's really important to identify for whom you're planning. You want to really make sure who you're planning for. So you want to consider the following reflection questions as you choose your subject. You want to ask yourself as a teacher, what do I know about the child's development progress, areas of growth, home life, and interests? And then the other question you really want to have in the back of your mind is, what do you want the child to do or learn as a result of the lesson? It's really important to understand this information so you can set attainable goals for attainable outcomes for the child as you develop your lesson. If you're currently not working, like I know maybe many of you might be not working with children, you can always observe somebody in your family, or I think there's videos that you could do to observe the planning cycle project. So once you've identified the subject with some background information about the child's development progress, etc., home life interests, planning should include aspects such as materials, step-by-step instructions, transition and support strategies, environmental considerations. Basically, writing out your plan is good, a really good way to help you see it come together. So once you've identified and you have an idea of writing out your plan and what you're going to do, the next thing is to implement it. So implementation of your plan will only be effective if the child is actively engaged with your plan. I can't remember, there was a student, I can't remember who it was, who said that, it's something similar to that, but it's really true that children are only going to be interested in doing something or they're only going to be effective if they're actually interested and engaged in your plan. So that's why a lot of play-based curricula is really good for a good way to have children learn through play. So you just really want to give opportunities for children and investigate and discover new skills and understandings. So when you identified your subject, now you have a plan, and now you want to implement, usually during a play-based activity. The next thing you want to do is really observe. So you want to observe and be cognizant while each activity unfolds. It's really imperative for the rest of the cycle. We also ask these questions: what is working, what is not working, what learning is taking place, and how do I know? During your observation time, you could be taking notes of your observations. There are different ways of taking observations depending on what you're looking for. So yeah, and we don't have to dig into that any deeper, but that's basically observations. And then you could adjust and differentiate. Basically, each lesson can always expand growth as educators. We always need to reflect on how we can continue to meet individual learning and develop needs of the child, and then how can we adapt the lesson to ensure to accommodate diverse learners. And then finally, what are the next steps we can bridge the lesson authentically into the child's home or the community? As you guys all know, that learning process doesn't end at school, and it is our job to inform the parents and guardians of the children what we are doing at school so they can share that, so we can share that information with the parents so they could extend that learning at home. This does help the child master the outcome when there is that dual support at the house as well. So yeah, and then you want to assess. To complete the planning cycle, we must reflect on the lesson effectiveness. Were the outcomes met? How do we know? What does the child know now? And what are the next steps in the child's development and learning goals? So having all said that, and then you repeat the cycle and reflect on what you could have changed so the lesson could have maybe been more effective. Maybe you didn't gather enough information like child's interest or family lifestyle. So it's really important to get as much information as you can to meet the outcomes and to set attainable outcomes for the child. Now, with all of that being said, do you guys know, or do you guys currently use the planning cycle as an ongoing process? And how do you think that will affect your teaching practices? Looks like I have somebody that came in. Hello. So it looks like Mindy shared she doesn't use the first two. However, I do help with the others. Each child is different. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's really, really important to make sure that you have a subject who you can identify and what you want them to learn. So making sure that you have that information is really important for your lessons.
This is Amber. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Amber.
We At the program that I'm working at, I'm actually an assistant teacher. So the head teacher includes me and another assistant teacher. And we actually use all of this whole cycle to implement and plan educational activities for children. A lot of them have different struggles and different things going on with their physical and their motor skills. So we try to incorporate a planning of an activity for all the children to participate together. But we definitely use this whole cycle for our planning of activities.
Sure, and I mean a lot of teachers usually have that plan that especially if you have like 10 kids in there, try to get the most of the interests of all the kids. But there are sometimes some of the kids that will not usually participate, and then it are trying to find those activities to get them up to speed of what can we do as educators to find activities that they're interested in while still trying to hold the class to some kind of expectation for individualization. If you are viewing this recording online, please answer these questions in the bottom in paragraph format to ensure that you get your points for participation. Jessica is going to share. She has used most of them before. Each child is different, so he said my assistant and I try to make sure all the children could participate in the learning activities that we have, but we try to make it more fun for those who may seem like they aren't interested. Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to get those kiddos that are not interested in what you're trying to do. What I've always found out is usually, I don't know, it's usually boys that are not interested in the subject. So boys are usually more hands-on kind of learners. I know I am, and a lot of times when I would teach, I'd try to teach them by a lot of music and movement, just because I had one year I had like 20 boys and 4 girls, so you could probably see how crazy that room was. But I always noticed that teaching boys that they always like to be hands-on, and that's usually how they learn. It's not all the time, but a lot of the times too. Yeah, Amber said that she tends to shy away from individualization with activities. Children pull away when they seem to find the activity difficult. Yeah, and I mean that's one of the things too. When an activity is too difficult for a child, you want to really make sure that um, you can set realistic expectations for the child. Um, so they feel like that it's attainable, but yet still realistic to accomplish. Still haven't heard from a couple of people. Give a couple minutes before I move on. Make sure that everybody participates. And if you are viewing this recording online, some people are typing in the chat box, which sometimes I'm giving time for people to answer and then share out loud what they have said, just so everybody could hear everybody's answers. I will give it one more minute. If you haven't shared, please either use the chat box or unmute your microphone to share something. Thank you. All right. I am moving on to the next slide. So this week, you guys will have 5 assignments. The live session, which is right now. That is your first assignment. As I previously stated, if you cannot attend the live session, the video will be posted to the announcements, and you would have to complete the live session quiz to answer the questions that I asked the class during the presentation in order to receive full credit. If you are online and you're not participating, you might not receive full credit, so make sure that you participate in these activities because it is part of your grade. The next thing that you need to do for this week is the discussion. That post is actually due tonight at 11:59 Central Standard Time. Talks about the planning cycle that we just talked about, and it provides a scenario with questions to answer. Remember to do your discussion post by Tuesday. Make sure to get it in by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then reply to at least one peer and follow up with any follow-up questions asked by your peers or myself by Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's a little bit different than any of your written assignments. So just make sure that you are getting your discussions in initially by tonight, and then replying to anybody who has asked anything by 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. The third assignment is the written assignment. For this assignment, you will begin the planning cycle by researching and using an observation or assessment resource to complete an hour-long observation of a child. So basically, if you're not in the, if you don't have, can't do that, there will be a video for that, and I'll go over that here in a minute. Basically, the purpose of the observation is to gain a background information which you will use in the later modules to create a meaningful learning experience for the child. Please note that this assignment is asking you to observe for an hour. If you are unable to do that, there is a link that you could watch with the video, which I think a lot of you probably will use anyways. If you are not working in a center at this time. So for this assignment, you will have to complete the following. You want to take time to research and assessment and observation. Some research tips when completing research. Make sure that you locate your reputable sites, state and national organizations, as well as the School of Education guide are really good places to start. Wiki and about.com are not acceptable at all because they can be manipulated by anyone, and it really reduces the credibility of their sites. So have that in mind when you are doing your written assignment. And then as you research, consider how you may use the resources in your daily practice as an early educator. So you want to choose one resource from your research to use in your observation of a child. For example, you might use a template of a running record or summarize an article you feel will be important to your success in completing the observation. And then you want to conduct the observation or the video. So basically, the possibilities for observing children are endless. You are currently working in an early childhood setting. You are encouraged to observe children in your care. If you're not working in an early childhood setting, you could choose to observe a child at a park, a restaurant. Well, these kind of times, I don't know if you could really do that. Or if you can't do that, possibly extended family if they come to your house. Or else you could use the video, which I'm guessing a lot of you guys probably will be using that. So yeah, the learning video through play. And basically with that, you will have to complete a 1 to 2 page reflection reporting on the following. In the first section, it introduces your subject, use initials or assumed name to comply with NACCE's Code of Ethical Conduct. And then share details about the observation date and time in the early childhood setting. To ensure safety for all live observations, it shouldn't take place when children are in your direct care. But if you are, say, on a lunch break and you're in the classroom, that's fine. I don't foresee that being a problem. Share observations with development across domains. So you want to make sure that you use the physical, intellectual, language, emotional, social, as well as the perceived learning preferences, interests, and behavior. So basically, there's just a lot of things that you need to do, and then finally, just a brief description of the observation assessment resource you chose, with a summary of how it was used to complete the assignment. These directions and steps are all there for the written assignment. It's kind of a lengthy assignment, lengthy instructions, but it's all there for you. The next one is the Module 2 course project lesson plan part 1. And I have a slide on that, which I will go to here in a minute, and show you kind of an example of what I'm looking for. And I'll talk to you more in depth about that here in a minute. But then there's the Module 2 exploration assignment, and this one is pretty easy. Basically, with this assignment, you just watch the video and then explore key areas of practice and how it can be applied to early childhood education. Basically, you're just answering the questions of share an example of what examples of this looks like in the video. Share an example of how you plan to use this key area of practice in your work, and then an aha moment from the video. So that assignment is actually not as lengthy as C and D. But I did want to go over D a little bit, just because I feel like Module 2, the course project lesson part 1, is a little bit different and a little bit more specific. So here. So on this one, you will want to reflect upon the observation or that you completed earlier in the module, and recall that the purpose was to gather information, to create a comprehensive lesson plan to support the development of your subject. The first step in completing the comprehensive lesson plan is to create a development appropriate learning objective. So I'll talk about this a little bit, Simon, in detail. Developmentally appropriate learning objects. So basically, you want to create SMART goals when you are doing this. SMART goals obviously should be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. On here, I did a lesson plan for my daughter, Annika. One thing I'm going to note in this lesson plan, which I did inaccurately, is I actually used her name, not here, but over here, and over here, and over here. I did 3, maybe even more mistakes in this lesson plan. Whenever you are documenting a child's name, just make sure to do your first initial and last initial. So Annika Hager should be AH, not actually the kid's name. I do apologize, but I did want to point that out just for sure, just so you guys understand that you should just be using initials when you guys are doing your lesson plan. Having said that, your lesson plan objective goals. So basically, I wanted to do a mealtime routine with Annika because she struggled with mealtime. And then over here is the by the end of the lesson, the stuff that she should be able to do. So currently, this is the stuff that they cannot do right now. And then these are the activities that they will do in the lesson in order to meet these goals and objectives. So for example, Annika, it always starts with the verb uses, identifies, seeks, engage, demonstrates. If you take a look, it's always a verb when you're doing a SMART goal. So uses hand-eye coordination when participating in routines such as carrying food, eating with silverware, drinking out of a cup, pouring into a cup, eating with fingers. If you take a look at that, it's really specific of what I'm looking for. And it's really measurable if you take a look by giving her opportunities to have Annika use forks, spoons, eat with fingers, smelling and touching different foods, pour water into a cup, drink water from a cup, carry food, and pass food will help strengthen her motor skills and hand-eye coordination. So that's the activity I'm doing with her in order for her to be able to do this. Does that make sense? And it kind of just goes down the list. So I identify shapes and colors. And if you take a look, it's for physical, gross and fine motor. This one is for intellectual. Identifies food in correlation to shapes, colors, and quantity during mealtime. Well, what did I do? She should identify different foods by their shapes, colors. Example, apple is a red circle. I just wanted to make sure, does that make sense to everyone? I know it's a little bit, it's a lot, but that's why I wanted to go over this with you, just so you guys understand what this assignment is looking for and how we should progress with this. I heard from Mindy, yes, 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 most definitely it's a lot, but it does make sense. From Keela, great, that's great feedback. Yes, it is a lot, and it's very, very individualized. Like I said, it's just with one child. But you just want to make sure that that you have this too as a bat, or as a guide for you. Basically, you are making sure that the goals are really specific, measurable. They're SMART goals, and you have the activities over here. So that does conclude our live session for tonight. A lot of this was just a lot of housekeeping stuff, ladies, just to make sure that you guys kind of have a feel of what it's going to look like. There is a lot of assignments in these 5.5 week court terms, but try to really manage your time wisely. And if you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out. The only question that, if you have a question, I'm sure somebody else has a question. And if somebody has a question, I like to address it through the whole class, just so everybody is on the same page. With that being said, does anybody have any questions? And if anybody does not have any questions, I know you guys have a lot to do. Just enter your name in the chat box and you will receive full participation for tonight's live session. Thanks, Mindy. Farden. Thanks, Keela. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Kimberly. Have a good night, ladies.